Welcome to lab number 3, Suppositories. In this lab, you'll be compounding acetaminophen 25 mg suppositories. We'll begin the same way we always begin, by organizing our lab area. Determine the required amount of acetaminophen and begin weighing out the active ingredient. Set the acetaminophen aside and repeat weighing all the required powders. In this case, this is the only powder. The next step is to weigh the fatty base directly into the beaker. Tear out the balance, place the beaker on, and zero out. The base may need to be chipped or broken down into smaller parts or flakes in order to accurately measure the required amount. Once the base has been weighed, move to the hot plate and set the plate to low to medium heat. Depending on your hot plate, the value that you set it to may be different. You can carefully attempt to feel how hot the hot plate is with your hand, placing around just to estimate the heat. You want to avoid overheating the base because it will begin to burn and turn brown. If this happens, you cannot reverse this process and you'll need to weigh out the base again. It's best to start low and go slow, slowly increasing the heat until you notice the base begin to melt. You'll want it to be a slow process. This should take about 5 minutes or so. Once the base has begun to liquefy, you'll place the magnetic stir bar carefully into the beaker, taking care not to burn your hand. Carefully turn on the stir function on your hot plate. The magnetic stir should begin to spin only very slowly at first, and begin until you have a very small vortex of swirling liquid. Ensuring the heat is still maintained at a low temperature, slowly begin to add the powder. You should use your micro spatula and fold over the weigh boat if necessary in order to transfer all the powder into the beaker. This process should take about 2 to 4 minutes because the powder will start to dissolve but won't dissolve completely. You don't want to dump all the powder in at once to avoid clumping. You may need to use your metal spatula to break up any visible chunks that have not dissolved with the magnetic stir bar. Allow the liquid to swirl and mix with the magnetic stir bar for another 2 to 4 minutes. You'll begin to notice the liquid moves from transparent to opaque. It now has the appearance of a suspension, more than a solution. You will see tiny bits and fragments of the powder swirling around. That won't dissolve. Once it looks uniform and has no big chunks, you may proceed to let the mixture cool. Turn off the stir function and turn off the heat. Allow it to cool down for about 5 to 10 minutes until the beaker is cooled to the touch or it won't burn your hand. You'll want to ensure the beaker still contains liquid so that it can be poured into the mold. Letting cool too long will start to turn it into wax and won't be able to be poured. Ensure the beaker is safe to pick up and begin to line up your mold for pouring. Using the pour tip of the beaker, carefully pour the liquid into each mold. The mold should be filled up just above surface level until a small round dome at the top appears. If you overfill, don't worry, you can let it sit there, it will dry up and be easy to remove at the end. Continue pouring until all the molds are filled to the same approximate amount. Once all molds are filled, set aside for cooling. As the suppositories begin to take on a more waxy appearance, you'll test the firmness by gently pinching the mold. Pinching too soon will cause the suppository to fall apart. To clean up any spilled wax, use your metal spatula and carefully scrape flush along the top surface of the mold. This will ensure that each suppository that's removed will be a uniform weight and size.